We're here today, the 31st of January 2005, in the home of
Keith George Watson and Dorothy Jean Watson.
in
Keogh Drive, Spring Gully.
right.
Bendigo.
Keith,
3550.
your war service was with mainly the 39th Battalion.
Well, mainly, yeah. I served a bit longer in the 36th, I think. So I was only 20 months, I think, in the 39th. But I was in the 39th from go to woe.
Were you in another unit before the 39th?
Yeah, I was about a fortnight in the 38th Battalion. It was a training battalion. Here I got called up in November and I went in there. I was 19. And I got jack of the 38th. I didn't like it. And so when Major Findlay came along, I thought, well, we'll have a go at this one. I'm very glad I did.
Did you go straight to Darley training camp?
Straight to Darley, yeah, straight into the Pioneers.
What actually was the job of the Pioneers with the 39th?
Well, actually, I think the original Pioneers were to bury the dead. But the Pioneers were all tradesmen. Some of them had trade qualifications and were paid trade pay. A blacksmith was class 1, he was paid 3 shillings a day. A carpenter was grade 2, class 2, and he was paid 2 shillings a day. I don't know what class 1 was, he was probably a grave digger or something, I don't know, but I don't remember that part. And we didn't have an officer, we had a sergeant. We were the only platoon that didn't have an officer.
So you'd be directly under the headquarters?
We're in headquarters company, yeah. I forget the number of the platoon now, 3 or 4 or something like that.
Yeah. Well, when you did your training at Darley, what did that consist of?
Not much. Go out for route marching up and down the steep hills and so you could get to the top of the hill quicker. So very steep the hills are out there.
I go back to Darley, and when you're training there, some of the people came from various other units, like the Vic Scottish, and they were wearing kilts. Mm-hmm. What uniform did you have when you went there?
Oh, well, we were issued with a uniform of course, it was in the summer. It was early, I'm not sure it was the end of November or early in December, but it was either one way or the other. But we were wearing khaki shorts and a shirt in our training. We only trained as a platoon. Vic Austin would take us out and do march, and I've got no recollection of ever doing bullring at Darley. The rifle companies might have been, but I got no recollection of the Pioneers doing it. And I don't remember much about it. We lived in a hut, but I slept on a palliasse that was full of straw till you lay on it, and then it all disappeared. But on the Christmas Eve, when we were, it might be Christmas Day, we had to empty our palliasses, and we didn't have any straw on them then. Of course, the story goes, and I think there's a bit of it in the thing, that at the count in the morning of Christmas Day, there was only one man missing in the battalion. That'd be a record for any battalion. And these fellas were on the verge of, well, they were all packed up to leave. And I think Colonel Conrad had expected it, and they put on a hell of a party. I remember I was slept in the bed next to J.D. Vanson, and he had 6 tin mugs, those old First War Army mugs, full of beer. He tied his bed when he went to bed about midnight. How big the party was. And of course, next day everybody's walking around in trance, but we only had to be there with all our gear, and we got on trucks and went into Spencer Street, got on the train there. And what a train, they tell you about these trains. We were belting across the plains. The battalion ran on 2 huge steam trains, about an hour or 2, one after the other. And somebody said, "Yeah, this thing's moving. Look at the grass. It's not blowing out, it's leaning in towards the train." So somebody had to watch with the second hand on, and we were doing a mile over under the minute.
Yeah.
And so when we got to Euroa, I think it was, and to have our evening meal, we somebody went up to see the engine driver, see him. Oh, he said, where do you mean? Oh, I said, back there. Oh, he said, I know. He said, lots of places there we're doing 70 mile an hour. And this bloody fast train that runs from Bendigo now, the Sprinter, Opperman rode his bike that fast. They called it after you, but Opperman. But he could do 60 miles in an hour. Or 63, I think he did, paced on the ball track. And that's all that Sprinter train does. But yet this huge train with 500 men on it was doing 70 mile an hour.
Yeah, well, we turn it back to the old days. You get the old fellas back in doing a job again. Christmas, you mentioned Christmas and you packed up at Christmas. What did you do did you get Christmas gifts from your family sent down, or didn't you, they miss you, or?
No, we had a very good Christmas dinner. As I said, they put it on with plenty of beer and everything. And some of us went for a bit of a walk down the gorge, isn't it? At Bacchus Marsh. What's the name of that gorge?
Gorge.
Went for down there, and some of us had a few bottles of beer, and I know we had a bottle of wine, and Ted Lyons knocked it off. He was still full in the morning, and Kevin Gray's trying to get him into line, and he wanted to fight Kevin. He was still so full. Old Darky.
A good time was had by all. So Sydney, any time spent in Sydney before you went on to the Aquitania, or just they whip you straight off the train, straight down to the boat?
Yeah, well, we came through Sydney in early hours of the morning, and I forget how we went out the Aquitania. I think it might have been at the wharf. It could get under the bridge. I don't know if it was the Mary or the Queen, or
Elizabeth.
It was Elizabeth, the other one, wasn't it?
Mm.
But they couldn't get under the bridge, I reckon. But we saw them as we went out.
Mm.
There was a lot of activity there. There were Sheilas up. There was a 3 or 4 story, and all the Sheilas there waving their hands to everybody. There was a bit of a joke about that. They had security. We weren't allowed to say who we were. The rest of these Sheilas up in the 5-story they knew. And one of them could handle not Morse code, semaphore. And she was talking to him in that. Anyway, once the MPs woke up to what was happening, they went up and they cleared the deck, and there was nobody at the windows.
So how long were you on the Aquitania for? What do you recollect as?
Now tell me, I didn't know about this until it's in the Kokoda and beyond. We went nearly to New Zealand. See, the Aqua was very quick. I forget what she was supposed to do. She'd get outrun the sun. But of course, we had 3 or 4 other ships, and we had what was the name of that corvette? Was it Chiles? It still had the marks on it from the River Plate battle. She was one of the escort.
Yeah.
I think the Swan might have been another. I'm not sure about that. But they escorted to Port Moresby. And we went off on lighters, and some went off on the deck, and I think we had nurses on that.
Yeah,
Shell on the Aquitania too. They were supposed to start a hospital or something. There was a bit of a hospital. The Air Force had something there on stage. But as soon as the words started to come through about what had happened to Singapore, well, they took them away again. We didn't see them again until when I came back from Gona it was Huggins Perimeter on Christmas Eve, 1942. There were nurses at the 2nd Ninth. The first thing they asked you how you were, and the second thing they asked you, can I have your leggings? There was so much mud about, and if they could get hold of a pair of those, I just took one off and gave them to the nurses. She had to hold them out and she took them to the shower to wash them off. See, I'd been wearing them for a month nearly. but they went, those are lace-up American leggings. They were really good stuff. But it was so crowded there that when you're in most of the hospital beds were shearers' beds, the cyclone. Mm. But when you were well enough, you went on an ordinary stretcher under the bed.
Yeah. Well, when you first got to Port Moresby, where did you go?
Oh, we came out, went onto the side of the track, and we eventually built a place there. We were there when the first air raid started. We drilled slips just on the right-hand side of the road, just before you go over the last hill and down to the 7 Mile.
You walk out like from the wharf?
Yeah, just off the main road. There was a bitumen road out to the 7 Mile at that time.
Did you walk out or drive out, trucks?
Oh, we marched out. What's the name of it up there? Marched at the slope, I think. What was his name? Sorensen, was it? Or one of those flash officers. I think he did the trip at the slope.
Yeah. There's plenty of mosquitoes.
I don't know how it happened, but somebody must have taken a hammer down one day to see right just across from us, less than half a mile away, was the big cast iron main coming in from Laloki.
Mm.
And they had huge pumps there, 5 and 6 stage pumps, terrific pressure. And somebody must have given this 3/4 plug a belt with a hammer, I think, because that's the only way to get down. And there was a geezer there. Oh, goodness. There were hundreds of blokes under the geezer washing their clothes and having the first bath they've had shower they'd had since they got to New Guinea. That was about a week later. I think it might have been a Sunday even.
Oh, not Saturday night. What was your duties when you were in Port Moresby, around 7 Mile Drome?
Oh, well, see, as I said before, the pioneers were tradesmen. And although they were doing a bit of road building, we built Austin's Crossing and that. See, that's actually Jesson's Crossing, but they renamed it Austin's Crossing because the pioneers built the crossing to get better access to Bootless Bay. But, we were fixing up headquarters. One job we did, I'll never forget. They wanted to get a gutter away from the cookhouse and headquarter company, and we knew who'd been at it, and we snuck down. We got a bundle of galvanised iron ridging from down at where they were building the Air Force camp down on the side, see? And we brought that up and we put pegs and we made a gutter out of ridging. And Ned Kelly came along, and he'd had a few sherbets and he'd just had a shower and he's drying himself and scratching himself, and all he had was a towel. And he said, and what else you do today? Oh, my damn, we had to go down and brick this on, and that's that. Look, he said, don't insult my intelligence. He said, if you said you did this in 2 or 3 hours and you've been sitting on your ass ever since, I'll believe you. He said, well, I won't believe you it took all day to make this.
So apart from the odd purloining of material from other projects and putting it into other uses, I understood you did a bit of work altering machine guns too.
Oh, well, see, we still only had Brens and Lewis's and Vickers. But these machines, well, they weren't actually being shot down, but they were coming in badly wounded, and they never got off the ground again. Some of them had 50 caliber Brownings, and some had 30 caliber Brownings. And Jack Manson and I had a forge going at the time. Our mob were doing a road out near Bootless somewhere, and they came across the old smelter's workshop, and they brought in an anvil and a forge and a jolly post drill and lots of other toils and that. And we set up we used to get we couldn't get charcoal, but we got coal from down in the bunkers and we got very good coke from the smelters. They used to use it to smelt the copper with. And we were well supplied then. Jack was a trade group's blacksmith, and I'd always been interested. We always had a forge at home, and I knew a little bit about the game. But most of the jobs we did were just sharpening picks for all the jolly those were being built. But we, of course, we could bend iron. We could get it hot and bend it, but the problem with them was they all came out of aircraft and they were all fired with a solenoid that was tied to the magneto and it governed the speed that they fired at. But anyway, we went down to the Air Force workshops somewhere near the 3 Mile, I think it was was anywhere between a 3 mile and a 7 mile, and they showed us how to make a long firing pin that went right down in, and it would activate the thing, and it'd just keep going. You're talking a minute ago about being frightened. I used to be more frightened of a bloody Vickers gun than of a woodpecker. Yeah, geez, they frighten you. When they open up beside you, you don't know where it's coming from.
Did you get involved in the McDewey business, or you were nowhere near at the time?
In what business?
When the McDewey was sunk? Did you ever get down to that?
We heard all about it, but I've got pictures here somewhere. See, our son Christopher was one of the security men at the Australian Embassy in Port Moresby in 1984 and 5, I think. And we went over there, and somebody gave him, when he heard I'd been there, a series of pictures. Oh, they're about that size. I don't know where they've gone. I don't know where they are, but they're good pictures. We sailed around the McDewey. He took us out in the harbour in his fishing boat, and we sailed around the McDewey while we were there. But, well, I had worked on it, but not that day.
Yeah. So and then from when from Port Moresby, the bulk of the battalion was sent up in dribs and drabs up the Kokoda Track. Tell us what happened to you.
Oh, well, we stayed in camp. We were in 3 different camps, but they were all in proximity of the 7 Mile Drome. There was the one on the side of the road just before you got to it. That was the first one we were in. And then we went across the other side in Conran Road, I think to see how I'd found an old planter's homestead there, and he'd moved into that, and we had to move over near him. But it's mentioned in the book. We got onto a lot of black piping, 1.5 and 2-inch black piping in Port Moresby, and they pinched it all and brought it out, and we laid the best part of a mile of pipeline. And then when we moved from Conran Road back to, I don't know what they called that, but it was out on the corner of the aerodrome. Oh, it would be a mile away. We picked our pipeline up and took it and put it in there. Had fresh water again. And,
a bit of ingenuity helps there.
Oh, well, you know, I suppose you call it ingenuity, but it's actually survival.
What was the food situation like while you were in Port Moresby, various camps around there?
It depended entirely on the cook.
Well, did you have enough to cook?
Oh, so we were never actually short until we got very short up when we were on the MacPat patrol, but because she had to carry everything there. Like the last 2 days we had nothing. We found a tin of onions on the way home, and what's the name, Curlyfield and I shared that, and that was the only feed we'd had that day. But apart from that, there was this dehydrated stuff was coming out, and the cooks hadn't learned how to use it. But as I say, it depended on the cook. If the cook was a good cook and he knew how to handle it, it was beautiful food. But if he, if you get bloke can't cook and he tries to make mashed potatoes out of dehydrated potatoes, they're just like porridge gone cold.
Oh, nice.
And there was a lot of tin stuff, even bully beef. If you had a good cook, he could make bully beef so you could eat it and enjoy it. I often think of it like that, what's the name, Crocodile Dundee. You can eat it, but it tastes like shit. I think that might have been invented then.
How did you feel about being in another country? I'm backtracking a bit here, but how did you feel like leaving Australia, a long way from home, a long way from mum and dad?
Oh, I don't know, never really worried me. But it was a novelty, being in another country. And I know we were working out at Jesson's Crossing when the big bombing was on Port Moresby and all the natives took off. We were several miles out. One bloke went past with a top hat on and an alarm clock hanging around his neck, and of course there were the women, kids, and all heading for Well, they were heading towards Bootless Bay. I don't know where they were going, up to the hills, I reckon. But another fella came past and he had a bag of rice in his back. He was sweating. He was still dog trotting and he had a bag of rice in his back.
Did you have much contact with the local people when you were there? Or,
not a lot at that stage. And eventually, we used to get involved with working parties to help us on the road and that, and you got a bit of an idea of pidgin English and that sort of thing. But we didn't have a lot of contact. Yeah, we'd wave to them as we went along the road in the truck. They'd be walking. The first night out on the MacPat patrol, they built a shelter and we all slept in that, all hurled up together, keeping warm. So we mixed with them then. But
how did you get involved in this MacPat?
Oh, well, as I say, there was 4 of us up at Koitaki, and they wanted 4 fresh men. Although the SIGs had all been up on the track, and McLeod had been up on the track. But we were fresh men, and they gave us a brand new Thompson submachine gun each and half a sugar bag of ammunition. That's the worst part of those Thompsons, is the ammunition you got to carry. But we never fired an angry shot.
Yeah.
It was just, we were in the Narrow Valley when the big retreat started. And we didn't know what was going on. I had biscuit bombers flying up down low. And what the hell are they doing flying over the Jap? That's what was happening. The Jap had collapsed and the wirelesses were nearly useless. And of course they never came past Kenai Rock. We used to have to send a runner back with any information about it. And I firmly believe that Doug McLean used a bit of poetic license in his reports.
After your MacPat patrol and you got back to Port Moresby, did you immediately rejoin the rest of the 39th there?
Oh, well, we rejoined it back at Hombrom Bluff, just before they did the big march from Hombrom down to Picnic Point, or Pyramid Point, I think it might have been called, yeah, Pyramid Point, down on where we built all the fortifications in the hills there, still expecting a seaborne invasion. That's where they got the bright idea that whoever had the best position would get the section, I think it was, would get a trip home. And they did. There was a bloke from, what's his name, the machine gunners, I think, might have been the ones that, and they got there 7 days at home. Oh. Nobody believed them, but they did.
So from there?
Well, all of a sudden the move to up to Gona was on. We only had about 2 days' notice. We just more or less walked out of our camp, I think, and we got re-equipped with anything we were short of. And away we went. The first day we got on the plane and had a load of ammunition and everything on it, as well as so many men. And then somebody woke up and had a flat tyre. And so by the time they changed the planes, it was getting near the end of the day and the fog had come down, and so we had to went over the next day. But it was pretty late we got there then. We got landed at Popondata and went down very close to Soputa. We left all our packs behind there, I think, in a shelter, but I understand it got burnt. When we were back there with the 36th Battalion, Soputa, we found the place. The only thing was left was the buckles off the packs, and it got well and truly burnt. Some people reckon it was put there to cover up for the bloody Q-store shortages. They put the fire on, but whether that's true or not, I don't know, but it all got burnt.
Mm. So, Popondata?
Yeah, we landed Popondata and came back near Soputa, and then the next day we went down to Gona.
Walk,
oh, they had a bit of corduroy road, and but there were bloody tanks bogged along there.
So it's a bit muddy, even that section.
Shocking.
Yeah.
The first morning we woke up, like you had to sleep below ground. We were pretty close to Gona by then. And Tassie Archer, one of the AOF fellows that came over, a more mature man, I think Brick Hospital described him as, he'd gone to sleep in a trench just below the surface, and he had his head on the sandbag, and he was sound asleep on his back, and he was rising and falling as he breathed in and breathed out. He was asleep floating. And he must have been tired too.
So in this bad conditions for sleeping and so on, did you get a chance to have a look at the jungle and the beauty of the flowers and things, or it was just there and not worry about it?
Oh, I looked at it, and I don't think, well, in my case, I never absorbed much, but I've still got a dim recollection of what it looked like. A lot of scattered trees and places heavy undergrowth, and you know, places there undergrowth was so heavy you'd have to cut your way through. But of course, they're around those places had been inhabited for years, and so there wasn't a lot of that. But there wasn't places, and there was a lot of swampy ground too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just you'd be walking along and you'd run into a swamp, and you'd have to. Some fellas went around them, but sometimes you could, or you could go through them. I know the second morning from Gona we went through one up to our waist, and of course somebody had been there before and they knew where we were going.
Yeah.
See, we had an officer then. Oh, what was his name? He came to us at Pyramid Point. He was an ex New Guinea rifleman. He'd been a gold miner up in Wales, and he belonged to the New Guinea Rifle. And boy, he hated Japs. I don't know what they'd done to his place up there. They must have burnt his house or something, I don't know, but he had a proper hatred of them. Yeah. But he only lasted 2 mornings. I think the second morning, I think we were doing, he got badly wounded in both legs, and we never saw him again.
Mm. So at this stage, you were, as the pioneers, were operating.
We were operating as the pioneers that morning. Yeah, we were lined up that morning that they called the attack off. Wasn't satisfied with the performance of the dive bombers. Mm. When we talked to Vic about it, I said, have you ever seen a group of blokes dig themselves 4 inches into soft ground in 5 seconds? I said, I have. I dropped their bombs way back there somewhere. It went straight down. But anyway, they didn't hit us, and they didn't hit the bloody Japs either. So Coleman called the attack off.
Oh, no.
He put his head on the block.
Ralph Honor, wasn't it?
Somewhere or other, Ralph Honor, yeah. Somewhere or other, he had the wood on. Blamey and all those fellas. There's a fellow at the back here, Ozzy Maguire. He reckoned he was Porter's driver. But he's not very well. He still drives a car, but he's had a big bypass op a few years ago, and if I had a shangle on my backyard, I could put a stone in his roof just over there. But he doesn't seem very interested in the 39th Battalion. He was a brigade man, of course. Mm. But I've only talked to him a couple of times.
So your involvement in the Gona thing as pioneers, what was it? Were you just used as infantrymen?
Just infantry, yeah. We were a platoon or a couple of sections. We weren't a full platoon, I think, a couple of sections, and we went in as infantry. But we'd had no training. Mm. That morning, Norman Goron got wounded. I was a Bren gunner. I don't know why Norman didn't have the Bren gun. He was bigger and stronger than me, and I was over 6 feet, so I suppose I reckon I could handle it all right. But we didn't charge. We went in on our hands and knees through a garden, and we came right up within perhaps 100 yards of the Japs having their breakfast. And we got the order to pour fire to him, and I let go with this bloody bit. That's the first time I'd ever fired a Bren gun in the dark. It frightened the hell out of me. I don't know for long. I went down behind the log, but nothing came back. And a few minutes later, Norm, he was over next to me just a few yards away. His nose slim. He said, I'm in trouble. I said, what's the matter, Norm? He said, I've taken the pin out of a grenade and I've lost it. He said, and I've been hit in the guts. Jesus, how do you feel? Oh, he said, I feel all right. I said, well, see how far you can throw it. So I got down behind the log, and Norm threw it, and out she went. I said, right, I'll keep you covered while you get out. And anyway, he crawled out, and we met when we were on our way to Sanananda. We met him coming in. He'd only been queashed. he'd been cut right across the stomach and never damaged anything. Yeah.
So,
I don't think I've seen him since. Oh yes, I did when we came back to Queensland.
so Gona was, how long were you there and doing?
Oh, I don't know. I suppose we were there more than a week. Edgar Guy and I were the first to walk across Gona after it fell. We were out on the end of a log fence there, and we were trying to keep there was still reckon there was a sniper up in the church building there, and we used to take it in turns to pour fire and that, with 3 or 4 fellas wounded there. I think Davy Lark got wounded in the arm, and somebody else got a bullet in the stock of his rifle. And somebody else, Stan Savage, I think that's where he got wounded too. But we weren't in the actual attack that finished Gona off. But we were out still trying to keep this bloke up in the, well, I reckon he was there. And anyway, there was a Major Cameron, would that be his name, something like that? I didn't know him. He came along quickly, there was a bit of shooting over the, and he said quickly, he said, I want 2 men to go across and contact Lieutenant Sword. He said he's firing over there, but he's probably firing on the, all resistance in Gona has finished. He's probably firing on the 2nd 14th. The 2nd 14th and remnants of it were coming along the beach. So Edgar said to me, come on Slim, you and I'll go. I said, righto, so away we went. And we got over there and we came to some of our fellas, and we left the message, and the bloke, one of the fellas, I don't know who he was, he said, Lieutenant Ford's there, he said, at your feet, he said, and if you don't duck your bloody head, you'll be down beside him, see? Well, they were just getting ready to pop a grenade in the hole, but somebody had fired a shot out of this foxhole. It was probably the last. And then somebody rolled a grenade into it, and that was the finish of that. The 2nd 14th were there, but the firing was at trying to keep the heads down until they got close enough to get a grenade in it. But Ford was, I have read somewhere that he got shot with a sniper on the beach. Well, it was close to the beach, but it wasn't on the beach, it was beside a foxhole, very close to a foxhole. I don't remember how many men they got out of it, but 2 or 3, I think, were in it. They're all dead.
Well, at that time, while you were a week at Gona, did you sleep in your own clothes, no gear to sleep?
The only thing you had was one of those ground sheets with a corner on it to move through a cape, and there was no good trying to keep dry because you were wet, and you dried out in the daytime most times. But I found that I could, as long as I had something over my face, banana leaf or something, and rain wasn't beating in my face, I could sleep in the rain. But see, we marched right around the back up to the Efogi River, and then went down the river until they made contact with the, we were at that time we called it West Gona, and it was on the Efogi River, but since it's been called, well, it was called by the 14th then Hattie's Village, but that's what it's mostly referred to now as. And that's where Edgar got killed there. I had the Bren gun and he had a Owen, and he was shooting around. How he would be shooting around the right-hand side of a tree and I was shooting around the left-hand side of a tree with a bloody Bren gun, I don't know, but that's what it was. And well, the grenade came over and landed right in beside him, and he got badly wounded in around the kidneys. And so I got him out, but they sewed him up and he died at the RAP. And what's his name, father, what's his name, buried, had a lot of graves alongside the river there, and he's buried there and later exhumed and brought to Port Moresby. I think he was at Soputa for a start, and then later on they put the big one at Buna in Port Moresby. Oh, I visited his grave when we were over there in 1985. Oh, there were a number of our fellows. And also when we met up with the 14th Battalion on the beach at West Gona, I met the bloke I went to school with the 2nd 14th, Bruce MacDonald. And as I say, we went back to Huggins Perimeter, and I got blood dose of malaria the other day, and I got back to the 9th AGH on Christmas Eve, And later, a week or so later, I got a letter from home to say Bruce had died in the 2nd 9th Hospital on Christmas Day. So I was within 100 yards of him at least, at the most. But didn't even know he was there. He was still hale and hearty. He died from scrub typhus. And when I met him on the beach at Gona West.
So that the end of that little area, the Battle of the Beaches, after that, where did you go? What happened?
Oh, well, as I say, I came back to 9th AGH from, I don't remember being even involved in any skirmishes on Huggins perimeter, but there was just a bit of casual shooting. You had to be careful you didn't shoot too much because the bloody Yanks are likely to open up on you. There were still a few of them there, but we were all, you know, we all had it. And there was a certain amount, there were fellas killed in action there. But I've got no recollection of being, so I was only there for 2 or 3 days, I think. I must have come out on about the 22nd or the 23rd. And
so everybody's physical condition is pretty bad.
Oh, it was shocking. When we got back to Gona from Efogi River, I had tinea up to the halfway up past my knees, little white blisters. I had a ringworm on the back of each knee as big as your hand. I had Dobie's itch. I had this other thing that grew fungus under your arms, and you were well and truly run down.
We'll just keep over there.
And anyway, they set up an RAP at Gona, and I went in there to get some green ink, and there was another fellow there, and he was waiting, and the RAP, I don't know, one of our fellows, said, he said, we're right out of green ink. He said, but we've got some stuff here, Japanese stuff. He said, it's the same, only it's a different colour. It's a reddy colour. Anyway, he started to paint this bloke, and he painted him, and he got up to about, I think he got up to his waist. And anyway, then it was my turn. He started to paint me, and he got up to about there on me. And the fellow said, look, he said, don't let him go any further. He said, this stuff, it's still burning as bad as when they put it on. And anyway, we went down the beach, and that was in the evening, and we sat in the sea all night to ease it. But that all of what's named had festered by then, but it did the job. They cleared it up. When I got back to, the same was all clear up, just a few welts that were there. There were hundreds of them. And I met the RAP bloke later on, and he said, I'm sorry about that. He said, we didn't need any information. He said, that was supposed to be broken down, poured in one with distilled water. They used it as a concentrated form. But it was an ink, all right.
So after the AGH, where to?
I came home on the hospital ship Wanganella. I was walking. I was probably, as fit as anybody on it. In fact, another bloke I met from Volunteer Rifles, he and I had hammocks, not the ordinary stretched out hammocks, but the big ones that used to hang straight down up on the sun deck. We had a great old trip. But I was still buggered. I'd knock up climbing the stairs to get to come back from a meal. I was hugging still. And I went to Red Bank in I think it was Red Bank, was it, or Red Lynch, just out of Brisbane, on the north side of Brisbane for a while, and then I came back to the convalescence depot at Cooperoo, and then we went to the convalescence depot out at, there was a camp out at, near Mountain, what was that now? But anyway, it was a camp out there. They had a big kitchen there, and we were putting on a pound, drinking beer, or you'd walk into, what's the name of that suburb? The Mountain View Hotel, that's right. To catch the beer when it came on at 11 o'clock, and to drink that dry, and you'd come home and have a big feed and a sleep, and then you'd go in and you'd do a pub crawl and through Stones Corner and all the way into South Brisbane that evening. And that went on for weeks. We put on some weight on there. I must be down about 7 or 8 stone when I came back, Well, I truly had it. I was there for months. I was very lucky there. I got a leave to go home, and I was home for my 21st birthday. In March 17th, I came back on Christmas Eve and I was still in convalescence step on March the 17th. While I was on leave from there. And I got into trouble there with Bert Whelan and a probo that's written up in the Kokoda and beyond, all about that. Vic Austin reckoned I was probably the only 39th Battalion bloke that volunteers for the 36th. But that story's quite true. That's the way it happened.
Tell us that story. Tell us that story.
Oh, well, somebody told me that Bert Whelan, he'd had his ankle knocked about and he was B class, and he was a cook's offsider at the showgrounds in Townsville. So I went in. I didn't get a leave pass. I went in and met him. He got a leave pass to come down. He got somebody to do the job for him, and we got mixed up with an old sailor bloke called Jack Tar. I don't think that was his name, but he called himself Jack Tar, and we got well and truly slathered. And I think he must have seen it coming because he disappeared. And this American MP on a motorbike turned up, and we gave him a proper dressing down, told him where to go to meet all his relations, and he got on his motorbike and ride away, and we're congratulating ourselves we'd bluffed him. Then there was a bloody paddy wagon turned up and threw us in the back, and we went into Kissing Point, and Kissing Point I think it was called, overnight, and back to Anoomba, and I was put on a charge sheet there. But somebody told me that there was a detachment of people of 39th blokes and 3rd Battalion and 49th Battalion fellows that were heading back to their units at Anoomba, or camped out at Anoomba on the south side of town, going out to the 36th, so I just mingled with them. I had no bloody pay book, no nothing. And when I got out there, they didn't have a pay book or any papers. I said they must have got left behind. And I didn't have any trouble, but I did. They were in Gunbear looking for me. But they happened to meet Barney Cashmore, the bloke I was telling you about a minute ago, the stall gift winner, and he convinced them that, I said, don't go out there, his father's been very sick, and he said, he's not here, you can have my word for that. He said, he went back. And I never heard any more about it, but of course I hadn't disappeared in Gunbear, disappeared in bloody Townsville. But there was nothing, no repercussions, nothing. I just went straight into the Pioneers out there, and that was it.
And what did you do after that? Oh,
well, we went from there down and got the boat and went to Soputa. Right on the river there. I forget the Butterbum, was it? That his name? Big River, beautiful big river. In an old American camp there. And the tents were rotting, and we started to build huts and that sort of thing. But then all of a sudden we got back to, I don't know where we got on the boat. Buna or somewhere, and we went to New Britain. No, sorry, we went to New Guinea, to Lae, and they went on trucks up to Bololo and the goldfields, and we did our training up there. But of course, as always, the Pioneers had so many things to do, building latrines and all the rest, and we did very little training. They were training in the hills there, was all those steep hills. And so there were still gold dredges there. They weren't working, some of them were sunk and leaning over. See, they used to just dredge in the rivers, they went along and put the rubbish out the back, just kept shifting their pond. There's a very simple one over, but much bigger it is over at Stanley and up near Wangaratta, Beechworth. And we were there for some time, but then with the Pioneers, they were sent down to help the engineers. She had a very precarious road into there they'd built, but by the time it was finished they didn't need it, really. And jumping, just right down. A couple of our older fellows from the 36th Battalion, they were called for volunteers to go and help sell those halfway up. And they said on a wet day, some of the blokes that were driving the trucks couldn't hold a cup of tea to drink it. Said they'd have to put it on the table with a straw or something. They said they'd got such a doing coming up in the rain that they couldn't hold a cup of tea to drink it. And we went back from there and back to Ley and got on the Pa hood. It had sacred roosters and they'd crap all over your bed if you didn't keep them away at night. And we slept on the deck, but I think the bulk of the battalion might have been on some other ship. But we went around into Hoskins and we landed at Hoskins and we relieved a bunch of Americans that had landed there at the same time as Guadalcanal, but they'd only established a perimeter. And I know one of our fellows said to one bloke, "What's out there, eh?" "Okay," and we don't know, we don't go out there. And we had the job of following up, chasing the Jap up the north side of New Britain. We shifted camp several times, but we when the Yanks left, they left their landing craft and the westward, but then all of a sudden they took them away. They needed them to go to attack the Philippines, and we were left with nothing. But fortunately, we'd found a little lagoon up the coast a bit that had half a dozen Japanese barges that was sunk. And we had some pretty practical men. They're the pioneers of the job. They floated them and got some of them going. And then later on, they appeared with some of these V8, Ford V8, landing craft, Australian landing craft. We used them. It was a bit dicky with the Japanese landing craft because there was still the RAAF was still doing patrols up there. If they saw a bloody Japanese landing craft, they'd get stuck in it. But it was the only way you could keep your troops supplied. Yeah. These local Elf Tozer and where did he come from? Keith Southwell, two huge men they were, 3rd Battalion fellows. They were in the pioneer. Joe, they were good mechanics.
So
Nimity Bell. In 1893, in the coldest winter you ever did see, it froze the bird and it froze the bees and it so froze the sap in the blithering trees. There was a curlew standing in the creek and his feet got frozen to his beak and he stayed like that for a bloody week in the cold, barren hills of Nimity Bell. Some of our 3rd Battalion fellas came from there.
yeah. Well, to round it off a little bit, what do you really think was important about the New Guinea campaigns? Or what do you remember important to remember about the campaigns?
Oh, I don't know what the thoughts were in those days. It was very worrying, because my job went close. And when we got down to the beaches, it was rough. You never saw anything like Gona. It was just a mass of bodies. There's a picture in Honour's saying, "Oh, that's how it was." I think we buried 380. I think there were two. They got 2 live fellas out of it, and all the rest were dead. And some of them had been dead for a week. They talk about this Shamani, but we had there on a small scale. Some of them had been dead for a week. Some had been buried, and the artillery said we broke their backs with the artillery. That's what did the job, and they'd have dug up bodies that they'd buried, and you just couldn't believe the smell. Absolutely shocking. And we didn't bury them very deep, but we got dirt over them all. And then we went on to Avoga River. But that's one of my things that still occurs to me. That not that I had absolutely no time for them, so it didn't worry me. But just the proper bloody mess and the number of dead that was in one place. No, but no bigger than a football ground. All these corpses in it. Some had been killed straight off. And their gear, they still had rice. They had enough rice and that. But, they just, I suppose they had the idea that we would treat them the same as they would intended to treat us if they won. and so they didn't. Only 2 or 3 survived. I don't know whether any committed harry-cowie. I think most of them were killed, or the artillery must have killed a lot of them because they didn't have much fight in them after that.
Well, what do you think it's important for future generations to know? What do you want to tell your children and your grandchildren about it?
That's a good one. That, as long as they realise just how close we were to being dominated, it was that close. It was close. Because had they taken Port Moresby, they'd have kept on going, I think. And they were very, if they'd have had the means of supply, they'd have taken Port Moresby. But, and I've never much said about it, but I think one of the turning points anyway was they got some artillery up there. See, they pulled some, I don't know whether 18 pounders or 25 pounders. They pulled them to bits and dragged them up the hills with ropes and blocks and tackles, and they assembled them. Once we got a bit of artillery, well, that may have done the job. I don't know, but it was a combination of they were short of supplies and the rest of it, and their supply train was too long, just like ours was for a start. And I think that's what broke their back. But it was just more or less the 39th had a lot of trouble with some of the New South Wales battalions. They wanted to re-establish Kokoda Day as the day that Kokoda fell, but Kokoda never fell. They were in such a hurry they just went straight past, down the river. And somebody came along and put the flag up there a few days later, but there was no Battle of Kokoda and that in the retreat. They never tried to defend it.
What you said before about what you're asked about, what did you want to get out of the war, and you said something about.
Oh, well, that was all I required. We had a job to do, and fortunately we did it. I suppose we felt a bit like Newton did last night, when sometimes you're winning and sometimes you're losing, but so terribly important that you had to win. But the difference was we eventually won, yes. We got beaten the first time, but we won at Gona. And after that, it was plain sailing. Like, we were very fortunate in New Britain. We had a Colonel Isaacs. I forget where he came from. He was a South Australian anyway. But he was a very sensible man, and he didn't waste any lives. See, Vic Austin was severely wounded in a bayonet charge, helping Bert Chown win his VC towards the end of the bloody war. All I had was what do we call them? Self-supporting prisoners of war. That's all those Japs up there were, really. But for political reasons, they wanted to free the country. And I got another description, somebody who came up with training with live Japs and live ammo. I reckon that's all it was. But they put on a bloody bayonet charge. In August, I think before August, I was finished, up at a tapie. That's where Vic got so badly wounded.